Cyclops is one of the most misunderstood characters in all of comics, and as a former Cyclops hater myself, I understand why people view him in a certain way. Because outside of most comics, most of his representation is abysmal, I'm not gonna lie. And lately, there's been some uproar on social media since fellow YouTuber Comics Explained said Cyclops is a better villain than most of Marvel villains. So of course, I gotta give my personal take on my favorite comic book leader. So alright, let's start off by saying I don't think Cyclops is a villain. He's more of like a revolutionary, if anything, especially after the events of Avengers versus X-Men and Bendis' run on Uncanny X-Men. Because during that whole run, especially in Avengers versus X-Men, we see Scott and a few others all embedded with the Phoenix Force. And you know the Phoenix Force is immensely powerful, is corruptive, yes, but Scott actually had pretty good control of it. I will admit, it did control him to a bit, but to be fair, he was kind of driven to this point. I mean, this is all after the House of M. The mutants were kind of like scarce at this point. There were all less than like 100 of them out there, and the Avengers weren't really any help. They were treating these guys, even after everything they went through and all the hardship they had, they were pretty much treating them still like they were nothing, like they were second-class citizens. And Scott and his people had enough. So after he eventually got all of the Phoenix Force within himself, he did make some pretty shady moves, not gonna lie. He killed Professor X. That's the biggest thing. But you gotta remember, he was being obsessed and controlled pretty much by the Phoenix Force, which is the most powerful cosmic entities in all of comics, but also is known for making people go crazy. The fact that he even was able to have that much of the Phoenix Force within himself shows how powerful he really is. But the fact that even though it corrupted him, but he didn't go like batshit crazy and try to destroy the entire planet or anything like that, shows that in the end, he has a lot of self-control and he is a good person. It's just that, if I'm being honest, Professor X is acting pretty stupid the entire arc. And he kind of had it coming. But probably anybody else that had that power would have done at that point if they went through what he went through. And I don't think that makes him a bad guy. And sure, maybe in the eyes of the public in the Marvel Universe, he's considered a villain. But these are the same citizens who voted for the Kingpin to become the mayor. So there's that. You really don't care about what the citizens have to say. They're always backing behind every Sentinel program. And they're pretty much backing anything that treats mutants like they're trash. And really, this kind of fuels the fire for why Cyclops is the way he is, because even like he quoted in X-Men 97, just be thankful that he's the way he is, because if the roles were reversed, humanity would not like how he would be treated. And he even had to give up his own son in that instance. So yeah, Cyclops, he's a really flawed character, and that's what makes him a great character, but he isn't a villain. Like, he doesn't just go around causing mayhem, trying to kill innocent people, or even put people in crazy situations or try to even overthrow governments or anything like that. He honestly has a pretty smart head on his shoulders, and the only thing he wants to do is just protect his people. Is that really wrong? Not even to the same degree as Magneto. But Magneto, he's definitely considered a villain, especially in the earlier parts of his career and comic book history. But in the later half, I mean, even when he joins up with Scott, I mean, Scott is a great leader and he has a lot of ambition. And overall, he helps to unite all mutants. And what better way than doing that? There's been villains that have joined the Avengers, so it kind of can't really judge Scott for that one. But really, that boy is just fed up always being dealt the worst hands. Like I said, being a mutant is treated like a crime in the Marvel Universe. Yet there are heroes like Spider-Man who gets a lot of public praise, when for all the public can know, Spider-Man could be a mutant too with the spider face underneath the mask. I mean, if you read the original Ultimate Universe comics, a lot of times throughout the entire series, people are always saying Spider-Man's mutant, because his identity is unknown. So really, you don't know what he is. He could be a mutant for all you know. And outside of people like J. Jonah Jameson and of course like a couple other media outlets out there, overall Spider-Man is loved by New Yorkers. This guy is literally the friendly neighborhood hero. And just put a mask on Cyclops and remove his identity of being known as mutant, and for all they know, he can just be a regular hero out here who came upon his powers in a lab. But of course, because they know who he is, they treat him that way. And that just goes to show he's being treated unfairly, yet he's not reacting in an unbelievable way or a way that seems like it will be villainous. Villainous, is that a word? I don't know, but whatever. The best example of this, like I mentioned, was during the Avengers vs. X-Men run, because after that, Scott and a group of his loyal mutants become fugitives, And of course, he teams up with Magneto. So yeah, the optics definitely were not good. But can you really blame the guy after everything that he went through? He just wants to be by the people who are loyal and he can rely on and depend on. And as they're on the run, they're going around fighting new people who are emerging with mutant powers and helping bring them under the fold and keep them safe because, again, now more mutants are being born and more people are coming up with powers out of nowhere. The government is going around snatching everyone up and experimenting on them and throwing them in prisons. And the Avengers and everyone is like, yes, this is good. This is right. This is all right. And even the X-Men who are actually around, who are separate from Scott, are like, this is okay, or let's go and get them our way and bring them to us and still follow underneath the government's control. For Scott, it's like, no, we've been through this literally hundreds of times, and every time we get done wrong. The only people that can treat mutants like people are us. Everyone else is going to treat us like we're animals, like we're unfit to be alive or unfit to live amongst humanity and cage them up or treat them less than. Only our own people can treat us with the respect we deserve. So Scott goes around as a fugitive, I guess essentially kidnapping some mutants, but really not. He gives them the choice of whether or not they want to join him or get captured by the military. And one is pretty much a no-brainer. So he's really just trying to help his people and do the best that he can. And he's being treated like a villain for that, which is kind of crazy, which leads me back to the original term. I think he's more of a revolutionary. He's someone that's trying to change the overall agenda that is being pushed on his people. And I think he's all the better for it. So not to mention, even when the mutants finally got their own safe haven a couple times, you got Genosha, which got obliterated like twice. And then they finally had their island nation of Krakoa. Scott was still viewed by the public as the main menace, when in actuality, it was really Charles Xavier who was the real threat. But even Krakoa didn't last because, of course, humanity has to always step in and mess things up for everybody. So yeah, Scott, he's not a villain, but honestly, by all rights, he should be. So if he does pop up as a villain in one of these comics sooner or later, or even when he's depicted on the screen again, and he just says, hey, you know what? I'm evil. Fuck this. Like, I'm just going to go all out as embrace my bad side. I'm going to be all for it. Trust me. So I think it's definitely called for, and it'd be pretty cool depending on how it's written. But I don't think that's how he really is. He's just someone who doesn't take a hit and just sits there. He's going to hit back and fight for what he thinks is right. And overall, man, I think it's definitely interesting to say that he is a villain or has been a villain, but definitely, I don't think he's any different from someone like Captain America, who has strong ideals and how he's portrayed during Civil War, if you ask me. It's just that he's doing it for his own people. So Cyclops is just a man who's willing to do the hard thing if he knows what's right for the people he loves. And if Wolverine and even the Punisher can be considered heroes, then Scott is one of the best. All this is my opinion, and I'm definitely subject to being wrong, even though I'm not. But seriously, what do you all think? Is Cyclops a villain? And comment down below. How do you feel about him as a character overall? Because I hope when Avengers Doomsday comes around, we finally get a worthy on-screen adaptation of the first X-Men.